Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to track 2. My name is Matos Marusak. I'm an industry value engineer with SAP. And we have Ingo and Douglas today here.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. And they'll be talking to us about what they've done at Southern California Edison, specifically about how they're driving tangible benefits and optimizing processes with SAP sustainability solutions. So they were able to manage to reduce total cost of ownership, optimize business processes, simplify things, make sustainability more transparent, and that's what they'll be talking about. So Douglas is a principal project manager with Southern California Edison. He is managing large projects, aligning business strategies with IT, and also he develops business cases for internal safety, security, and compliance organizations. Ingo is a principal business consultant with SAP, and he has over 20 successful go-lives, and he helps our customers run safer. So Ingo and Doug, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. Ingo and I are really excited to share our story from Southern California Edison on our EHS Inc. implementation. So I'm sure everyone in this room can understand when I say EHS Inc., that's our internal branding, because we love to put specific names and acronyms on everything we do. So that's what we're here to share, some of the highlights from our 3-year multi-million dollar implementation that started back in 2013, and we're in the process of winding it up now. So we're going to go through an introduction. We're going to share 4 specific stories from that entire program. We'll give you some key takeaways. Feel free to ask any questions throughout this presentation. We'd love to make it more interactive. I think it will go a long way if you guys have some specific questions on the topic that we're sharing. All right, so who are we? I think everyone understands Southern California Edison. We're one of the largest utilities in the nation. We have a very large asset base, and with that large asset base means we have a lot of environmental and safety regulations that we have to comply with. So we have a significant number of permits and tasks and other activities that we have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to make sure that we remain compliant with all those various regulatory agencies.
So if there's one thing you walk away with today is to learn about our SAP sustainability solutions. I just want to get a feel in the room, who knows that SAP has sustainability solutions by the show of hands? So not so many, so you will learn something new today for those of you who didn't raise their hands. So sustainability solutions really help Southern California Edison to drive tangible results, and we're going to bring you 4 stories today to illustrate what are these results.
All right, so let's dive into the first one. So simplification, how we drastically simplified the IT landscape. So this was our situation back in 2013. We had a few different processes: incident management, environmental compliance, environmental clearance, and hazardous waste management. These were in a variety of different systems, if they were in systems at all. A lot of them were manual processes, and we wanted to make sure that we were driving some benefits into the organization. So the first 2 that you see on the list, incident management and environmental compliance, were in a system called Enviance. And we were at a crossroads where in late 2013, we had to determine whether we were going to continue on with Enviance or we were going to go on a different path. And so we said, okay, well, we really want to look at it from one of 2 ways. We can continue on with Enviance. It's really a standalone, isolated system that doesn't have integration. Or, because we are a very large SAP shop, we could go the SAP route. And in 2013, we actually met with SAP and realized that they made significant investments in their environmental health and safety suite of products, to the point where we actually thought it was one of the best in the marketplace. So not only did it drive a good user experience for our environmental health and safety organization and all the users, but it also aligned with our IT strategy and gave us some of those critical interfaces and integrations that we were looking for. So this was our environment in 2013. We had a whole bunch of processes that you see listed up here. And that's obviously very costly, right? Anybody that's gone through some of these implementations know that they can be costly, but if there's a good business case to back it up, it's going to be a lot easier for us to move forward with that implementation. So we went from that to that. We ended up decommissioning over 15 applications across our environmental health and safety portfolio, ended up with SAP with one interface to our workers' compensation system. So this is a pretty powerful business case about how we were truly able to simplify things, not only from an IT perspective. By decommissioning these systems, we saved money on maintenance and licenses. But from an end user perspective, out in the business, they were able to go with a single platform for all of their environmental health and safety needs. That goes a long way for ensuring that we were able to drive adoption very quickly amongst our end user community. I'm not going to read every single one of these, but basically these are the critical project drivers that we had that we wanted to achieve as a result of this implementation. So we wanted to drive some automation, we wanted to make it scalable, we wanted to make it user-friendly for our end users, and ultimately we wanted to make sure that we provided reporting and analytics that made it very easy for our executive management team to take all the data that we were capturing in the SAP solution and actually do something with that data. We wanted to make sure that capturing the data wasn't just there for capturing data, but it actually drove decisions within our executive population. How did we do this? Well, you can see here, we started in 2013. We had a 3-year roadmap that brought us into 2016, and we did it through 3 specific technologies in SAP. So first was SAP Environmental Health and Safety Management, or more effectively known as EHSM. We were on the 3.0 version of that application. Since 2013, SAP has released versions 4, 5, and 6, and we're hoping in the next couple of years we can actually upgrade to the latest version and take advantage of some of the latest capabilities. The purple string that you see there for environmental compliance was in the SAP Environmental Compliance, or EC 3.0 module. Again, this is another module within the sustainability suite that captures all of our permits and corresponding environmental and safety tasking that we have to do on a routine basis to make sure that we aren't falling behind and to proactively identify when things aren't being complete on time. The environmental clearance is one of the most fascinating stories, and we're going to dive into this one in a little bit more detail. So this is every time our transmission and distribution organization has to break ground, we have to make sure we do an environmental review before they touch anything to make sure that we're not going to be out of compliance with the Clean Air Act or the Clean Water Act, or that we're not endangering any protected species of animals or reptiles and so forth. So this was a really critical implementation for us using the MOC module, where we're able to do automated evaluations of every single T&D project that's being requested by interfacing into GIS. And we were able to save more than 25 FTEs from being added because of the projected growth in our asset base. And then finally, again, in EHSM 3.0 was hazardous waste management. Another really exciting co-innovation opportunity that we were able to do with SAP, and Ingo's going to run us through more details. Basically from cradle to grave, from the point that we actually generate hazardous waste to the point it's picked up and delivered to the appropriate disposal facility, we manage all of that within SAP. So, with that, let's dive in, unless there's any questions, into our next story. Okay, so automate.
Environmental compliance, how does it automatically give you a rating or whatnot, just based on the project? And then
Let's dive into that right now, because we're going to talk specifically about the environmental clearance project, and I have some screenshots that will actually walk us through exactly what it looks like. So this was our challenge. We have a projected growth that we have to continue to replace our aging infrastructure. And every time we replace a pole to doing a new transmission line, we have to make sure that we're doing an evaluation of all these various environmental factors. We have to make sure, though, that that's not increasing costs. We're all aware of the challenges. We heard it in the keynote this morning about the changing marketplace and the challenges facing our industry. So how can we continue to be compliant without significantly increasing our costs and ultimately, passing those increases on to our ratepayers? So this was our process that we ended up with. We start with our T&D organization, giving the environmental health and safety organization a notification of a project that they were planning to do, anywhere from a single pole replacement to a 10-mile transmission line that we were building. From that point, we interface into GIS, and the GIS turns results that say we're not in a protected waterway, we're not in an endangered species zone, we're not in public lands, and we're in SCE territory. We can actually go ahead and allow T&D to proceed with that project. And hence, down at the bottom, you see the auto clearance. We're able to auto clear about 80% of our projects. And when you think about the magnitude of that, again, I can't reiterate this enough, we were going to have to hire 25 additional people to account for the projected increase in work that the T&D organization is going to be doing. Through this process, we were able to avoid that entire cost and really drive a lot of automation and efficiencies to the business. In those events that those 20% of the situations require some additional review because it is too close to a potential waterway, or there's an endangered species of a bird nearby to where the projected project site is being requested, then we go through a series of manual tasks. And the system will, based on the responses to the questions that the person answers and the results of the GIS interface, we can actually auto-assign tasks to specific people within the environmental health and safety organization to help speed up their review. Once that's done, we can then go through pre-construction implementation to make sure they have all the necessary permits before they can start actually doing the work, and then finally continuing to do compliance assurance throughout the whole project. This whole process from steps 1, 2, and 3 in the past was all done on paper forms. We had what's internally called pony mail system, and it literally felt like things were being passed over by people riding on horses. It would take 6 weeks for something to get from the T&D organization to somebody within the environmental health and safety organization to actually review that form. And 80% of the time, within 5 seconds, we can allow T&D to proceed without any human intervention from the EHS organization. So I'm a big proponent of pictures speaking 1,000 words. So we're going to walk you through a handful of slides that's going to give you a good sense of how SAP actually helped us accomplish what we're trying to do here. So these first screens that you see here is what the T&D organization is going to be submitting when they actually identify that there's a project. So this is called a change request within the MOC application. They're going to fill out some critical data fields, who they are, what their contact information is, some key information about the project that's being requested. This does have interfaces and integration directly into the EAM module of SAP, which comes in handy because then the maintenance organization that's already put in their projects into EAM doesn't have to repeat all that information. They simply select the asset or the work order that they're going to be doing this change on, and it automatically pulls up all the information directly out of EAM. From there, they start putting in their project coordinates. And there's a few different ways. They can go ahead and put in specific latitude and longitude of those points that are going to be impacted, or they can actually use something like Google Earth where they create a KMZ file and load it into the system with all their potential project points. From there, you can see down on the bottom left that there's going to be 4 evaluations done within GIS. Finally, before we send it over and submit it, there's a series of questions that are being answered by that T&D planner community that really helps us understand what the risks are that are associated to this project. So even though if the GIS responses come back that everything's fine, there may be certain answers to questions that still will trigger a manual review. So I really like this slide. This really shows you how this all works. So you start with taking those coordinates in the top right. This is what we saw 2 slides ago when the T&D planner puts in their specific latitude and longitudes. From there, within GIS, all those green points that you see up here would have been the specific project points that were included from the T&D organization. And then you see the red and the purple layers are the environmental layers that are being evaluated against. So all of these aren't within any of our specific layers within GIS. That means there's no risk of us moving forward and allowing T&D to do the work. 99.9% of the time, if the EHS organization looked at these things manually, it would say there's no problem, go ahead and do the work. So why would we continue to have them do a manual review in each of every one of these projects? However, you see one point here. That one point is in a specific zone for endangered species. That means if we allow this work to happen, that there is a significant potential for non-compliance, which could lead into fines, penalties, reputational damage, an audit from the Environmental Protection Agency, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, whatever it may be. And so this particular project that resulted in this particular point would have been denied from an auto clearance perspective, would have triggered a manual review to be completed by the EHS organization. And they would go out and do site visits, they'd have a conversation, and most of the time this results in this person saying, you know what, I'm going to shift this 50 yards to the left, and all of a sudden I'm out of the protected area and I could proceed with the project. So this was really powerful. This is an automated interface. This whole processing then turns back into the results. SE territory, are you in or out? Obviously, we want to make sure we're within our own territory. There are circumstances, though, that we have to do work outside of our territory, but that means that there's additional scrutiny that's going to be involved. Capital project intersection, in or out. We want to make sure that we're not conflicting with any capital projects that are currently in flight because there could be some conflicts from resources. Public lands. We have to get certain permits if we're trying to put, let's say, a new pole on a public land. We want to make sure that if they're requesting a pole to go into a specific area that is considered public lands, there has to be additional review before we can proceed. And then finally, Eagle Zone. So that's what this purple one is here. There are specific areas that are considered Eagle Zones, and in the state of California, we can't actually proceed with that project until we have a biologist go out, visit the site, and make sure there's no protected species, specifically of eagles, that are nearby that we can do damage to. So all of this happens in less than 5 seconds, and T&D is now able 80% of the time to proceed with this work without any involvement from EHS.
So you have culturally sensitive spots loaded?
So you're actually talking about our roadmap. So over the next 18 months in GIS, we're only evaluating these first 4 layers today. We have another 22 environmental layers that we're going to continue to put into this process. So by the end of, let's say, the next 2 years, we hope that every single one of those layers, including Indian reservations, including waterways, and so forth, are all going to be evaluated. But we took the 4 high-risk areas, and we felt confident that we could proceed with auto-clearing projects based on the results of this in combination to the questions.
So then, but how are you sure when you're auto-clearing, if you don't have all those other 22 in, that you're not auto-clearing something like this?
It's definitely a risk, and without getting into too much detail, that's why we want to close this gap and make sure that we are doing a complete evaluation against all 26 of the layers. But like I said, 99.9% of the time, when we do our clearance based on these 4 factors, we are going to be pretty much compliant with everything else. The questions that you saw a few slides ago also help us understand whether there's any additional risks on those layers that we aren't auto-clearing or evaluating in the auto-clearance process today. But in spirit of trying to get them some functionality as soon as possible, we did start with those first 4, and we're going to try to get the rest of them in as soon as possible. All right, so this is what you see in the event that there are manual compliance activities that are required. So in this case, let's say based on the results of the GIS evaluation and the results of the questions that were answered by the T&D planner, there was a series of manual review tasks that were required to be completed by the EHS organization before they could issue the manual clearance. So in this case, archaeology, biology, and water all had to go through a manual review. Typically, this requires them to go out and visit the site. They have detailed conversations with the planning organization before they can come in and close out this task. And not until every single one of these tasks are shown as complete can they actually proceed with the last step in the process, which is issuing the manual clearance. And this is a critical part of our work order packet that our T&D organization uses today. If they do not have this in the work order jacket, they are not supposed to do any work because of the risks of non-compliance with all of those various environmental regulations. At the end, all this data sounds great, but if I don't have some real-time dashboards that can help me make decisions and check the performance, it's not going to be really useful for our senior executives within our environmental health and safety organization. So this is a view, and you'll see this in every single one of our stories that we share, that we have some executive level dashboards that are aggregating all of this data in the SAP Business Warehouse. And so up top you see all of the auto clearance projects and the number of projects that are completed from a manual clearance perspective on time. So through the month of September, our target was auto clearing 20%, but yet we are at 74%. That's a pretty powerful message and acknowledgement that we were able to meet a big part of this business case. Additionally, because they now have an automated solution to help them track every single one of those manual compliance activities, nothing gets lost. They have reports, they have a single pane of glass to all of the various environmental activities that are taking place, so now that they can make sure that they're completing the manual compliance reviews on time. So they have a target of 90%, and so far, they're at almost 95% if you aggregate all these numbers together. And then down below, you also have specifically for the deteriorated pull programs, actual versus target year to date, you have some similar information. So this comes in handy. This is some of the key, the KPIs that the EHS organization is looking for, and they continue to track this to make sure that their organization is meeting the expectations because they're providing this service to the T&D organization. And that's really the core of our business at Southern California Edison. We want to make sure that we're not providing roadblocks to those processes, but we're trying to help our T&D organization get through some of these barriers as quickly as possible. Any questions? All right. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ingo, and we'll have him go through hazardous waste management.
These were 2 really exciting stories about simplification and about automation. And now I want to share with you a story about innovation. So when you do an SAP implementation, you will run into the situation that SAP will not be able to meet all your requirements, right? Who knows what I'm talking about? So you have two choices. You can do what you always did before, or you can innovate. You can do a co-innovation project with SAP together and close that gap. And that's what we did for the hazardous waste management process. So SAP didn't have a solution that was meeting the requirements that Southern California Edison had. So we had to innovate a little bit. So I'm going to walk you through what we did exactly. So as in all the stories, we have a problem here. At Southern California Edison, we deal with thousands of transformers that turn into waste every year. Just by the show of hands, who works in a company that has similar problems, where you have transformers? So a few hands there. So that the volume is not the only problem. The second problem is that you have to deal with hazardous substances, and the substance of concern here is PCB, polychlorinated biphenyls. And they're not good for the environment. They are linked to cancer. So as a company, Southern California Edison has to ensure that you take care of that waste. So now the question is, how do you deal with this business challenge? And when we came to Southern California Edison in 2013, they had a very manual process. They were using all different systems, maybe Excel spreadsheets as well. They were even sending faxes to their vendors. So a very manual process. So when we came in and we worked together with the business, we came up with this new process, end to end. And that's one of my famous drawings that that help facilitate some of our workshops that we did. Well, the goal was to bring everything into SAP, starting with the spill. The spills are now recorded in SAP with SAP EHSM, Environment, Health and Safety Management. That's one of these sustainability solutions that I was talking about, or that we were talking about in the beginning. So that is in SAP. The transformers that break, the drums with the contaminated soil, that is in SAP in the inventory. So we innovated a net new transaction for that. You can see that at the top. And we even use barcodes, a barcode scanner to make it easier and to reduce the human error. The lab results from samples that we take from the soil, they are stored in SAP. The email that is sent out to the vendor to pick up the waste, that is stored in SAP. The manifests that the vendor that transports the transformers and drums to the disposal facility, the manifests are also stored in SAP. So everything is in SAP. So who in the room has a similar process, maybe not powered by SAP, but who has a similar business challenge like that? Please raise your hand so I can. Good. So as Doug, I like pictures, and I want to show you some screenshots of that solution. So this is the launch pad that every hazardous waste management user uses to get into the application, whether they want to track the inventory, the lab results, the manifests, and so on. So they use this single point of entry. And this is a tool that's available to all ECC6 customers. This is a launch pad. So we used existing pieces, and then we also innovated new pieces. Oops. So this is a view that the incident managers were very excited about, because before we completed the project, they were not able to see what happened to those transformers. There was a spill, okay, that was in SAP, but what was the result? Did they have PCBs, and was the manifest returned? They didn't know that before. Now with SAP, they knew about that. So this was very exciting for them. This is the net new transaction that we created for tracking the inventory. And here we're pulling data from EAM, from the equipment master, we're pulling data from the lab, and we are predetermining whether or not this waste has a hazardous substance or not. So it's pretty cool automation, and that helps to lower the risk for human error and the risk for non-compliance. And then whenever you ship hazardous waste, you have a manifest. It's a paper document, and we built a tool to capture the information on that document inside of SAP. Now maybe going forward, the vendor can access this tool, and maybe they can print going forward at some point that manifest right off SAP. But for now, we're just tracking the information. And that information really helps Southern California Edison to deal with exceptions, like discrepancies you can see here. Maybe there was a full return of a container, or partial return, or there was a residual waste in it, or the quantity was wrong, or the type of waste was wrong. But you can also see, the count here is very low. It's around 10, and we have per month around 400 to 500 hazardous waste manifests. So this dashboard really helps them to take action where they need to take action in order to become even better managing that process. So I'm not going to go through all of these just in the interest of time, but we have now better data, more insights, productivity is increased, and we have less risk for non-compliance. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Doug to bring us the last story.
Fantastic. Any questions?
I have a question on that. As far as your transportation of that hazardous waste, right? We have clocks at the facilities that that waste has to be moved from the facility. So are you managing that clock within this store as well?
That's the intent. So I believe that there's certain regulations that say if you're not a hazardous material storage facility, you have to have all hazardous material out of your property within 72 days from the point of generation. So we are supposed to be getting to a level of maturity where we are tracking the point at which that piece of hazardous waste enters in our facility, and we'll have controls in place and automated notifications that say T-minus 7 days, you're having the 72 day period coming up, and we have to make sure that we take corrective action on that immediately.
Was that your vision, Ingo, with using the serialization to help?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think the serialization is one of the coolest things that we were able to do here. Not only from this perspective, so that as soon as that material enters our facility, you can scan it and automatically updates our record saying it was entered here today on October 10th. So, by middle of December, we have to make sure it's gone. But the other cool thing is it's also integrated into our SAP EAM system. So instead of me saying, okay, well, this was the drum, and I have to say, or transformer, this was the size of the transformer, this is the location and everything, I can just simply scan that barcode. It pulls up the equipment number out of SAP EAM and then brings in all the associated master data with that transformer. We know the core, we know how big it is, we know the exact location of all these things so that it's automatically brought in, and that minimizes the amount of work that the people out in the field have to be doing.
Yeah, and at some point we also will bring in the manufacturer date, which will tell us whether or not there is PCB in it. And then we can eliminate some of the sampling that we're doing right now.
So all your pull-top transformers have those serial numbers on the way?
We are in the process of updating them. So there are historically items that are sitting on top of poles or underground vaults that do not have the serial numbers. But moving forward, our T&D organization is mandating from the manufacturer that the serial barcode is included on all of our materials.
What percent do you think you have coverage? You got?
Probably less than 25 to 30% currently have it. So this is setting us up in the future so that once we start refreshing all of these old materials, once we get through the pre-1980 transformers that potentially have PCB contamination, this process will be setting ourselves up to be much more optimal in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Will this show me the entire cost to remediate after the incident as well?
As of now, no. We don't have any financials associated to this. I'm sure through reporting we could give some capabilities into our EHS organization I will say that I mentioned core is one of the things that is captured from an EAM master data perspective that we bring in, because depending on the core type, that then allows you to anticipate how much you're going to get from salvaging that material, right? If it's copper versus aluminum, there's different prices that we can get by recycling it. In terms of cost, no, we have 2 specific haz waste transporters that we have contracts with today, but we haven't been able to tie those costs directly to individual transactions.
Right, there's typically costs to restore the property, right, which
Absolutely.
you guys have to incur, so that would be good because it would show to you, what we more aggressive, right, in placing those older transformers, cost avoidance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a great point. And speaking of cost, the other interesting thing that we're seeing here now for the first time is we're able to see if there's any potential defects within a certain make and model of the transformer that we weren't able to get in the past. So let's say, our historical rate was a 2% defect on our transformers, and we'll send those back to the manufacturers, but the 2004 version of this particular type of transformer has a 15% defect rate that's caused us to go through this process. We can actually start identifying those things up front and work that out with the manufacturer and take corrective action on it accordingly, so that we're not waiting through this whole process to start realizing that there was a defect on the manufacturing line. Yes?
Does this process incorporate failure codes into the type of environmental event that takes place?
Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So you got a leak on a transformer, it's a vessel failure,
Mhm.
for instance, that would be affiliated with some sort of failure code.
Oh, failure code, yeah. So if I go back to incident management, so we had 4 different work streams of incident management. The second one included all of our environmental events, and one of which is hazardous material spills. So in this particular point, when the spill occurs, that's actually tracked as an incident record within SAP. You identify that specific asset on that incident record, and then there is an entire investigation process that goes along with it, where you put in your root cause, your trend codes, and your cause codes. So you can start to identify everything from, was this because of a car hitting a transformer pole? Was this from a manufacturing defect? Was it from a heat storm, right? There's a whole bunch of failure codes that are configured on the incident record itself, so that we can start to do the analytics on each and every one of those spills.
Very good.
We have to move on.
Alrighty, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go into the latest and greatest and final phase of the EHSA project, Fiori, everyone's favorite topic. All right. So, who's familiar with the safety pyramid? All right, everyone in the utility space should be very familiar with this. Theory behind this real quick is if we can start reporting unsafe acts and conditions, we can start to prevent the number of near misses that ultimately prevents a number of minor injuries, severe injuries, and hopefully have 0 fatalities. The problem at Edison is this has really been a reverse pyramid historically at the company. We do a great job of tracking all those injuries that take place. We don't do such a good job of identifying those close calls or near misses, and we do a very, very poor job of recording the safety observations that ultimately is the behavior that led into those injuries that we were capturing. So how are we going to fix that? Well, the typical things that we were hearing from folks is, I had 10 different systems depending on which OU I was in terms of capturing those safety observations. So they didn't know if they moved around the organization where they were supposed to be recording those. In the event we did have a system, let's say we had paper cards within the IT organization, people didn't have those cards readily available. And by the time they see that, they get back to their desk 2 hours later after a meeting, they forgot it took place, they don't record it. So how can we go about fixing that problem? Well, we wanted to go through a Fiori mobile application. Give people the ability at their fingertips to automatically or immediately record that observation as and when it took place. So we rolled this out about 3 months ago, and we've seen more than 1,500 people internally within the company already record safety observations on this mobile app. It's been a really quick and easy thing for people to start learning because we're all on our phones all the time. And so we were truly able to go from paper forms, disparate systems, and consolidate them into a single platform where now I can combine safety observation information with all of my other incident information on a safety perspective. So I'm going to show you some screenshots. This just kind of walks you through, the 7 or 8 key steps that you would go through on that mobile device. So you're going to start with, who is reporting this? This is integrated into our HR system. So if I'm the one reporting it, type in my last name, it brings up all my employee demographic information, because what's the first thing your safety organization is going to ask? Well, how many safety observations did IT have versus T&D versus customer service? I can't do that if I don't know who recorded it, and I don't want them having to manually fill this out. So all I have to do is I do a quick search, I can type in my last name, it comes up right there, and then populates over as the observee. Same thing, or observer. Same thing happens with the observee. If you want to identify that, hey, I saw Ingo walking down the hall earlier, and he was looking at his phone while texting, or while walking. Shouldn't be doing that, Ingo. You're gonna trip over the cord. So I'm gonna go ahead and record this. It's not calling you out. It's just an acknowledgement that there's an opportunity for us to improve some of our safety behaviors. So again, yeah, that was actually a really good point. Thank you for that. It's probably not a very good idea. Hey, I can record an observation on myself for that. So. Once I have the observer and observee, I can have multiple observees. Typically, our field crews will have a supervisor that's observing a crew of 10 people. They can actually put every single one of those 10 people in as observees. Once I'm done there, from a location and time perspective, again, connected to SAP. We have every single one of our facilities configured in EAM as a functional location. I can then go through, start typing in, I was in the Monrovia Service Center, I start typing MON, and it comes up with the 3 facilities that we have in Monrovia, and I can choose the specific one that I was at. Again, this is all ultimately for reporting and analytics, because within T&D, they want to know how the North region is doing compared to the South region versus the West region, how this facility is doing against this facility. So we can start seeing, why is this one doing better than others? Maybe they're having some best practices that they've been able to implement. I also want to make sure time and date is included in here. So it has drop downs. We're all familiar with this on our apps on a daily basis on our mobile devices. So again, it's very intuitive and easy for people to do. Once I complete that, then I go into some specific set of questions. So that's under the observation details. So in this particular case, kept work area clear of hazard and kept stairs, aisles, exits, roadways, and/or walkways clear. So in this case, this is actually one I saw. Employees dropped ice cubes on the floor and didn't pick them up. Could have posed a safety hazard if somebody slipped on the wet ground. I had a conversation with that employee, wanted to make sure I captured it in here. And then this goes back to the question earlier about root cause. When this gets submitted into the EHSM product as an incident, you have the ability to do an investigation, a root cause analysis, and corrective actions if that's what it takes. Again, I have to answer at least one question. What was I observing? This drop down is exceeds, meets expectations, or opportunity for improvement. So this is also encouraging us to record when we see positive things happening. Say, thank you. Appreciate you doing things safely. Thanks for putting your phone away while you're walking down the aisle. Thanks for not pointing the laser at me. You know? Goes a long way. People appreciate those positive comments, and it really helps to reinforce the safety culture that we're trying to put here. And then finally, you have a few questions at the end. Is there a corrective action that was required? Yes or no? If yes, were you able to address it? We're in a find it, fix it mentality. The last thing we want to do is to have 10,000 observations out there with things that need to be done, and people are like, that's not my job. No, every single person at Southern California Edison has the accountability and responsibility for safety. So this is just further reinforcing it. And then finally down here, you see recognition recommended. If you tap yes, you're going to get an email that's going to link you into our recognition system that encourages you to go into that system and either send a thank you note, provide some merit points, or even a merit award to that employee that was doing something in a positive manner. At the end, you see all 5 things are filled out. You click submit, and you're done. Easy. This takes less than a minute and a half. And we've seen really positive results and feedback. And this is the first Fiori app that we introduced across the enterprise. And we did it to 13,000 employees all at once. So really successful at this point in time. And then to hit on the point earlier, this is what the incident record looks like for all of our various incident types within EHSM. Whether it's an injury, a close call, a safety observation, a hazardous material spill, a switching event, a wiring event, a vehicle incident. All of these are all type of incidents that we track within the EHSM system, and you see here that there's an investigation. So you start to capture what was the event, what was the activity, and what was the cause. So I can start doing some detailed trending. I like this story. A few years ago, for the Edison folks in this room, there was a whole bunch of safety programs targeting to hold the handrail while going up and down stairs. Sure, I think we can all acknowledge that it's probably a good idea, but everyone thought that that was a very at-risk behavior for the company. We had no data to back that up. Once we got this implemented from an injury and close call perspective, in 18 months we had 2 close calls and 0 injuries that resulted from somebody not holding the handrail. Probably not a good idea for us to be spending a lot of manpower and dollars on programs that aren't really reducing the risk for the company. Instead, we started realizing, back to my point of Ingo texting while walking, even though I'm sure he wouldn't do that, that was actually one of the biggest drivers for unsafe behavior in the company. And we now had data to back that up because of this field right here, cause code. And so now we can start targeting more effectively our safety programs across the entire company. And then over here, in the event you do have some corrective actions that have to take place, you can go ahead and assign this. You can integrate this into your EAM work management system so that you can make sure that people get notified through their normal work channels that they have something to take place. I like to share another story. Right after Go Live back in 2014, I was walking out to the parking lot at about 10 o'clock, long day. It was dark outside. There was a broken light bulb over the parking lot, and I tripped. I tripped in the parking lot because roots got under the asphalt, caused it to come up, and I didn't see it. So hey, great opportunity for me to test out the system and report a close call. I think I was the third one in the system. Within 1 week, I saw a crew out there repaving the entire parking lot, and it's because they had received the notification that they had to repave the parking lot. So really cool, a lot of integration possibilities, and really drove a lot of benefits for the company. So once again, what does this mean? Now I have my safety dashboard that I can start to share across the entire organization to all levels of leadership, so I can start to track what's the total number of injuries. Out of those injuries, which ones required first aid, had no medical attention, which ones were considered OSHA rates or OSHA injuries. Out of those 27 OSHAs, how many of them were darts? Now I can start to drive into this and do metrics. If you see at the top, operating unit, this is for all of SCE. I can drill down into IT, and I can even drill down into individual departments within IT. Same with T&D. I can start with T&D and then go down to transmission, distribution, substation, and so forth. All this data automatically changes, and as you see here, as of 3 months ago, we're starting to populate this with safety observations. So in theory, going back to that first slide about the safety pyramid, I should have way more observations, fewer close calls, and even fewer injuries. This is now pointing out that we still have some way to go in order to get there. So with that, we've got about 2.5 minutes left, so I'll let Ingo walk us through the key takeaways.
Yes, we want you to walk away with 4 key takeaways. And they not only work in the business, they also will work at your personal life or work life. So the first one is to aim to reduce complexity. Where in your organization do you have one process, but you have many tools? Is there a way to reduce that complexity? So that's number one. Aim to reduce complexity. That can save you a lot of money. Number 2 is, do you have in your organization a process that takes a lot of time and that you do over and over again? Is there an opportunity for you to automate pieces of that process? And here at Southern California Edison, we saved 25 FTE. That's just amazing. That's an amazing story. Number 3, innovation is a little bit scary because you enter new territory, but have the courage to innovate. And SAP is a great partner to do that with. Next. And last but not least, really embrace the power of mobility. Like here we saw, we can now engage thousands of employees to help us understand what's happening at the bottom of the pyramid so we can take care of what's happening at the top. So with that, we're going to close it out. We're going to be available after the session outside if you have questions, want to talk to us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys.